The starship Erebus hovered silently above the strange blue-green planet. Its surface shimmered with wide rivers, jagged mountains, and dense forests. Commander Valira, leader of the Xylarian fleet, stood in her observation deck, eyes scanning the landscape through the ship's translucent panels. Her expression was calm yet sharp. Every detail mattered. Every shadow could hide danger or opportunity. She had received reports of a small human delegation arriving on this planet. Humans. A species the Xylarians considered simple, but remarkably unpredictable. That unpredictability fascinated Valira. Her curiosity was piqued. Humans had survived against odds that would have destroyed countless other civilizations, and now, one of them had volunteered for a mission that no alien had attempted before, to serve as her personal guard while she explored a newly discovered alien artifact on the surface. The human's name was Kale. He was young, lean, and had a strange mixture of confidence and caution. To the Xylarians, he seemed fragile, yet there was something in his posture, a quiet strength, a spark, that made Valira decide he would be the one. Not because he was the strongest, but because humans often found ways around problems that logic alone could not solve. Kale stepped onto the observation deck, his boots echoing softly against the metal floor. His eyes widened as he looked at the sprawling landscape below, then at Valira herself. She was taller than most humans, with sleek silver armor that reflected the soft light of the ship. Her skin shimmered faintly, a natural glow of her species, and her eyes were like liquid silver, observing everything with precision. "Guard Kale," Valira said, her voice calm but firm. "Your task is simple. Protect me and follow my instructions. Failure is not an option." Kale straightened, trying to match her calm, though his heart raced. "I understand, Commander. I will do my best." Valira tilted her head slightly, curious about his reaction. "Your best is not enough if you lack awareness. You will need more than strength or courage. You must think, adapt, and notice what others overlook. Humans often do." Kale nodded. He felt a mix of pride and fear. To be chosen by a Xylarian commander was an honor, but also a trial. Many had failed before him. He had heard stories. Guards who thought they were careful, clever, or brave only to be caught off guard by the unexpected. The ship began its descent. The wind whipped against its hull as it passed through the planet's atmosphere, and Kale gripped the railing tightly. Valira did not flinch. She had trained for situations far worse than this. When the ship finally landed on a plateau near the artifact, the doors opened with a hiss. Outside, the air was thick and heavy, rich with the smell of strange plants. 2 moons hung in the sky, casting a faint silver glow over the landscape. The artifact itself was only a short walk away, but even from here, it radiated a strange energy. Kale could feel it in his bones, a pulsing, subtle hum that made the hair on his neck rise. Valira led the way, moving gracefully over the uneven terrain. Kale followed closely, keeping his eyes on both her and the surroundings. Every so often he noticed a glint in the trees, a subtle movement, or a shift in the light. Nothing yet attacked, but Kale remembered her words. Awareness could save a life. Finally, they reached the artifact. It was enormous, like a monolith of dark crystal, rising from the ground with jagged edges that seemed to twist impossibly upward. Strange glyphs covered its surface, glowing faintly as if responding to their presence. Valira stopped a few meters away and studied it carefully. "Many have tried to understand this object," she said, her voice echoing slightly in the still air. "All have failed. It is not meant to be touched or solved by those who cannot see beyond the obvious." Kyle watched as she circled the monolith, her fingers lightly brushing the surface. The energy seemed to pulse stronger where she touched. She paused suddenly and turned to him. "Observe carefully. Notice what is exposed and notice what is hidden. There is much you may not understand yet, but your human instincts might help." Kyle swallowed hard. He had studied alien artifacts before, but this was unlike anything he had encountered. It seemed alive, almost aware of them. and Valira. She moved with such control, such precision, that it was clear she expected him to follow her lead exactly, but also to be ready to act when she did not. Hours passed as Valira studied the artifact. Kale remained alert, watching every movement, listening to every hum and vibration. Sometimes she would step back and examine a glyph, then return to another area with a careful sweep of her hand. Kale realized this was a test. She was testing him, not just for courage, but for attention, judgment, and patience. At one point, she paused and looked directly at him. "Do you understand what I ask of you?" Kyle hesitated. He thought she wanted him to touch or manipulate the artifact, but he remembered her warning. I watch and observe, Commander. I will follow your instructions and alert you if danger appears." Valira's lips curved into something like a smile. "Good. That is the correct approach. Too many rush. Too many assume they know what is safe. Awareness is more valuable than strength here." The sun dipped behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the plateau. The artifact's glow seemed brighter against the darkening sky. Kyle felt a pull, a strange curiosity about what lay inside the monolith, though he did not dare act. Valira had warned him. Patience first, action later. As night fell, Valira activated a small energy field around the artifact. "Rest now," she said, "but remain vigilant. There may be surprises." Kale nodded, but sleep eluded him. He felt the energy in the air, sensed the life in the surroundings, and noticed every sound. Somewhere in the distance, a creature stirred. Another shimmer of light danced along the horizon. His instincts told him something unusual was near, but he stayed still, silent, patient. Then, as the wind shifted, he noticed a small panel on the artifact's surface, one that glowed slightly more than the rest. It was subtle, almost hidden. Kale's curiosity flared. He remembered Valira's instructions: observe and notice what others overlook, but he also remembered her warning: not everything should be touched. He glanced at Valira. She was resting, her eyes closed, but her breathing was steady and even. It was tempting. A small part of him wanted to see what the panel might reveal. Another part, the part that had survived countless challenges, whispered caution. Kale forced himself to step back, his hand retreating. He had observed enough for now. Patience and vigilance were as important as curiosity. The artifact would wait. He would wait. That night, under the twin moons and the glowing monolith, Kale understood the true test. This was not a test of strength or bravery. It was a test of restraint, of observation, of human ingenuity. And somehow, he sensed, it was only the beginning. Above them, the ship hummed softly in orbit, a reminder that even in a universe filled with alien wonders, humans could hold their own. Kale's mind raced with possibilities. What secrets did the artifact hold? What challenges awaited tomorrow? And most importantly, would he prove himself worthy of the Xylarian commander's trust? He did not know the answers yet, but Kale was ready to find out. The night was quiet, but Kale did not sleep. The twin moons cast faint shadows across the plateau, and the monolith glimmered with an eerie light. He stayed close to Commander Valira, watching her calm breathing as she rested. He tried to steady his own thoughts. The artifact had shifted something inside him, a mixture of curiosity, caution, and excitement. Hours passed. The wind whispered through the strange trees, carrying scents unfamiliar to him. Somewhere in the distance, a faint glow flickered. Kale's instincts tightened. Something was moving. Not the usual wildlife, not the harmless creatures that roamed during the night. Something deliberate, something intelligent. He crouched, scanning the perimeter, noticing patterns in the shadows. Then a subtle vibration ran through the ground beneath him. A soft hum, almost like the artifact itself was, reacting to something nearby. Kyle's senses sharpened. His heart raced, but he remained silent. Valeera stirred slightly and opened her eyes. "You are awake," she said softly, her voice steady but alert. "Good. Observation is key, but do not let fear cloud your judgment." Kale nodded. "I feel something moving, something intelligent." She rose, her movements smooth and deliberate. "Then we shall see if your instincts serve you well. Come." They approached the monolith, keeping low. The glow from the artifact pulsed with a gentle rhythm. Kale noticed again the small panel he had seen the night before. It shimmered faintly as if inviting attention. He reminded himself to resist touching it without instruction. Suddenly, the shadows around the plateau shifted violently. From the darkness emerged creatures unlike anything Kale had seen. They had long limbs, sleek black exoskeletons that reflected the moonlight, and eyes that glowed faintly red. Their movements were precise, silent and predatory. Valeera stopped and studied them. "Defensive positions," she ordered. Her tone was calm but commanding. Kale's training kicked in. He quickly scanned the surroundings for vantage points, escape routes, and potential hazards. The creatures moved closer, circling the monolith as if guarding it or testing intruders. Kale noticed they avoided certain spots, areas where the glyphs glowed more brightly. The artifact seemed to influence them, guiding their movement. Valeera raised her hand, and a translucent energy shield extended around them. Kale's eyes widened. He had trained with protective fields before, but this one was seamless, almost alive. The creatures struck it, claws scraping against the energy. Sparks flew, and Kyle felt the vibrations in his chest. "Observe their pattern," Valeera instructed. "Do not engage blindly. Their movements are not random. They follow rules, and the rules are influenced by the monolith. You must find the gaps." Kale crouched lower, watching the creatures circle. He noticed subtle pauses, tiny hesitations, moments where the energy from the monolith weakened slightly. He realized that if they timed their actions perfectly, they could move without alerting the creatures. "Commander," he whispered, "I think I see a path. A way past them, without direct confrontation." Valeera nodded approvingly. "Good. Humans often notice what others overlook. Move carefully and do not lose focus." They advanced slowly, keeping to the shadows. The creatures moved with uncanny precision, but Kale's observations allowed them to step through gaps unnoticed. Each step required patience, timing, and courage. One wrong move, and the creatures would strike without hesitation. Halfway to the panel, Kale noticed something else, a faint energy signature, almost like a trail. It led to a small crevice in the monolith's surface. "Commander, there is something there," he said softly. Valeera examined it. "Ah, the artifact reveals its secrets only to those who watch and think. That is why you are here, human. Guard. You see the path others miss." Kyle approached the crevice. The energy shimmered, warm to the touch but not harmful. It seemed alive, pulsating with an intelligence that made him aware of his own heartbeat. He resisted the urge to poke it recklessly. Instead, he observed. The creatures outside shifted again, their attention momentarily drawn elsewhere. Kyle saw his chance. "Now," he whispered. Valeera nodded, and they carefully moved closer to the crevice. The panel responded to Valeera's touch first, opening slowly to reveal a hollow space within the monolith. Inside, strange symbols rotated in midair, glowing with soft light. Kyle could feel the energy brushing against his skin. It was unlike anything he had experienced. Not dangerous, but powerful. "This is the first trial," Valeera explained. "The artifact tests those who approach. It will respond to thought, courage, and insight. Do not rush. Let it speak to you." Kyle stepped forward, keeping his hand near the edge of the opening but not touching the symbols. He studied the patterns, noting their rhythm, their subtle differences in the way they reacted to his presence. Slowly, he realized the symbols formed a puzzle, a sequence that required careful attention and logical thinking. Hours seemed to pass as he and Valira worked silently. She offered occasional guidance, nudging him toward connections he might have missed. Kale's human mind, trained in problem-solving and observation, began to see patterns. Finally, one of the symbols responded to his focus, glowing brighter. The creatures outside stirred but did not attack. Kyle felt a surge of triumph. They were not invincible. They followed rules, and understanding those rules gave humans an advantage. Valira's eyes shone with approval. You see, Kyle? Humans are remarkable. You do not rely solely on strength. You rely on insight, observation, and persistence. These are qualities many aliens lack. Kyle's chest swelled with pride, but he remained cautious. He knew this was only the first trial. The artifact had many layers, many secrets, and the creatures, whatever they were, would not be the last challenge. Night deepened. The twin moons reflected off the monolith, casting long, twisting shadows. The air was filled with tension and anticipation. Kale realized that survival here required more than physical skill. It demanded intelligence, patience, and the ability to anticipate. Valira finally lowered the energy shield. Rest now, but remain vigilant. The artifact tests not only your mind, but your endurance. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, and you must be ready. Kyle nodded. Sleep was difficult, but he found moments of rest, dreaming of glowing symbols, shifting shadows, and strange creatures. Even in dreams, his mind worked, analyzing patterns and possibilities. When dawn broke, the plateau was bathed in soft light. The monolith pulsed gently as if acknowledging their presence. Kale stood beside Valira, feeling more confident than before. The first test had been survived. The creatures had been observed, patterns understood, and the artifact had revealed a small part of its secret. Remember, Valira said, this is only the beginning. Observation, patience, and insight will be your greatest tools. You are human, Kale, and that gives you advantages others do not. Do not underestimate yourself. Kale took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility. He was not just a guard. He was a representative of humanity in an alien world, facing challenges that demanded intellect, courage, and restraint. As they prepared to face the next trial, Kale felt a growing confidence. Humans had survived against impossible odds before. They had adapted, learned, and prevailed. And here, on this strange planet, facing the mysteries of the monolith and the cunning of alien creatures, Kale knew he could rise to the challenge. The first night had tested him, but tomorrow would demand more. And Kale, human and determined, was ready to prove that even in a universe filled with wonders and dangers, humans could hold their own, and perhaps, in subtle ways, surpass the expectations of even the most advanced alien species. The morning sun spilled across the plateau, painting the landscape with soft gold light. Kyle stood beside Commander Valira, his eyes tracing the glowing monolith. Its surface pulsed with gentle energy, almost as if it were alive. The night's trial had tested his patience and observation, but today promised a greater challenge. Kyle, Valira said, her silver eyes scanning the horizon. The artifact has many layers. It tests more than reflexes and intellect. It tests courage, ingenuity, and understanding. Are you ready for the next phase? Kyle straightened. He had survived the first test, and he felt a growing confidence. Yes, Commander. I am ready. Valira nodded. Good. Then follow closely. Do not act hastily, and remember what you learned last night. Observation first, action second. The two of them approached the monolith. Kyle noticed the faint trail of energy from the crevice they had discovered yesterday. It shimmered like a ribbon in the morning light, leading toward a larger section of the monolith. This area seemed more complex, with overlapping glyphs that twisted and shifted, as if the artifact itself were aware of their presence. Valira touched one of the glyphs lightly. A panel shifted, revealing a hollow chamber inside. Kale peered into it, seeing strange mechanical structures that floated without visible support. Some glowed softly, others emitted a faint hum. The chamber seemed to rearrange itself as they watched, almost as if the artifact were alive and responding to their attention. "This is unlike anything I've seen," Kyle whispered. His curiosity burned, but he forced himself to remain cautious. The artifact's energy brushed against his skin, warm and powerful. He felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. This was not just an object, it was a puzzle. A challenge meant to test their minds and instincts. Valira's eyes gleamed with approval. Exactly. Many aliens approach the artifact with force, expecting it to bend to their will. Humans, however, think differently. You rely on creativity, adaptation, and insight. These qualities make you valuable. Remember them. Kyle nodded. He studied the chamber carefully, noting patterns and sequences. The floating structures seemed to shift in response to their gaze. One symbol would glow when they looked at another, forming a chain of reactions. It was like a language made of energy, one that required patience and careful observation to understand. Suddenly, the floor beneath them vibrated. Kale tensed. The artifact was reacting, perhaps sensing their presence. Valira remained calm. She stepped forward and touched one of the floating symbols. It shifted, rotating in midair, revealing a faint path leading deeper into the chamber. "The next trial is within," she said. "You will need to think quickly, observe carefully, and act decisively. Are you prepared to enter?" Kyle took a deep breath. He had faced challenges before, but the artifact's chamber was unlike any test he had encountered. "Yes, Commander," he said, his voice steady. They entered the chamber together. The walls shimmered with energy, and the floating structures created a shifting maze. Every step they took seemed to alter the environment slightly. Cal realized that the artifact was not static. It responded to thought, focus, and movement. As they moved deeper, a new type of creature emerged. Unlike the ones outside, these were smaller, faster, and less predictable. Their bodies were translucent, glowing faintly as they darted through the chamber. They seemed curious, observing Kyle and Valira as much as the artifact observed them. "Do not engage directly," Valira whispered. "Observe patterns. They respond to your actions, not just instinct. Humans often find ways to bypass threats by understanding them rather than fighting." Kyle nodded. He crouched, watching the creature's movement. They followed subtle rules, reacting to light, sound, and shifts in the energy around the chamber. Kale noticed a faint rhythm to their motion, a repeating pattern that allowed him to predict their next move. "Here," he whispered, pointing to a narrow gap between two floating structures. "We can pass through without being noticed." Valira examined it, then nodded. "Good observation, proceed." Carefully, they moved through the gap. The creature's attention followed, but Kale's timing and understanding of the pattern allowed them to slip past undetected. Each step required patience, focus, and coordination, but Kale's human instincts guided him. As they reached the center of the chamber, they discovered a central core of energy. It was massive, glowing brighter than any symbol they had seen. The energy seemed to pulse in a rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Cal felt a strange connection, as if the artifact were aware of him, testing his focus, his courage, his understanding. Valira turned to him. "This is the heart of the monolith. Many have tried to touch it, to claim its power. Few have succeeded because it tests more than skill. It tests the mind, the soul, and the courage to face the unknown." Kale stepped closer, feeling the energy wash over him. It was powerful, yet not threatening. It demanded attention and respect. He remembered Valira's guidance. Observe first, act second. Slowly, he extended his hand, careful not to disrupt the flow of energy. A symbol floated toward him, rotating in the air. It glowed brighter as he focused, revealing a hidden pattern. Kale realized it was a puzzle that required both logic and intuition. His heart raced, but he forced himself to concentrate, tracing the connections between symbols, understanding their sequence, and anticipating the next reaction. Valira watched silently, her eyes reflecting approval. "You see, Kyle? Humans succeed because they combine thought, creativity, and courage. You do not rely on one skill alone. You adapt, you notice, you understand. Hours passed as Kyle worked through the puzzle. He made careful adjustments, watching the reactions of the symbols and the surrounding energy. Slowly, the chamber's energy shifted, settling into a steady rhythm. The central core pulsed brighter, and the creatures in the chamber ceased their movements as if acknowledging success. Kyle stepped back, breathing heavily. He had completed the first major challenge within the chamber. The artifact's energy seemed to hum in approval, acknowledging their progress. Valira's voice broke the silence. "Well done, Kale. You have learned the first lesson of the monolith. Observation, patience, and understanding surpass brute strength. Humans excel because they adapt and think in ways others do not. Remember this lesson. It will serve you well in the trials ahead." Kyle felt a swell of pride, but he did not relax completely. He knew the monolith had many layers, and each layer would be more challenging than the last. The creatures, the puzzles, and the shifting environment were only the beginning. Valira placed a hand on his shoulder. "Rest for now. Even the strongest mind needs recovery. Tomorrow the next phase begins, and it will test not just your observation, but your courage in ways you cannot yet imagine." Kale nodded. He had survived the first major trial within the monolith. He had observed, adapted, and succeeded where others might have failed. But he also knew this was only the beginning. The artifact held deeper secrets, and the challenges ahead would demand everything he had learned, and more. As they exited the chamber, the plateau outside glimmered in the afternoon sun. The twin moons were still visible in the bright sky, hinting that night would return soon, bringing new trials. Kale felt a mixture of anticipation and determination. He had proven himself once, but the monolith had many more lessons to teach. Valira turned to him. "Remember, Kale, humans succeed because they combine thought, courage, and resilience. You are more than your strength. Your mind, your instincts, and your adaptability are what make you remarkable." Kale took a deep breath. He understood, now that this was not just a test of skill, but a test of human spirit. And in the heart of the alien monolith, on a planet full of mystery and danger, he felt a quiet confidence. Humans had survived impossible odds before, and here, facing challenges that no alien could fully predict, he knew they could rise again. The next trial awaited, but Kale was ready. The afternoon sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the plateau. Kyle stood beside Commander Valira, gazing at the monolith. After surviving the first major trial within the artifact, he felt a mixture of pride and determination. But he also knew that the monolith had deeper, more challenging secrets waiting for him. Valira's silver eyes scanned the glowing surface. The artifact reveals itself gradually. The first trial tested your observation and patience. The next will challenge your courage, adaptability, and your ability to face uncertainty. Kale nodded. "I understand, Commander. I am ready for whatever comes next." She led him to a newly opened section of the monolith. A hidden door had slid open, revealing a narrow corridor, dimly lit by the artifact's own energy. Strange. Symbols pulsed along the walls, casting moving patterns of light and shadow. The air smelled faintly metallic, tinged with energy that made the hairs on Kale's arms stand. "This is the hidden labyrinth," Valira said softly. "Few have ventured here. It tests more than skill. It tests courage and judgment. One misstep can lead to disorientation or worse." Kale took a deep breath. The corridor seemed alive, shifting subtly as they moved. He felt a thrill of excitement mixed with caution. Humans had always adapted to impossible odds, and he knew that careful thinking would guide them through this challenge. As they advanced, the corridor widened into a chamber filled with floating platforms. Some hovered steadily, while others swayed gently as if reacting to movement. The glowing glyphs on the walls cast shadows that made the platforms seem more unstable than they were. Kyle noticed the creatures from the inner chamber had not followed them here. Instead, the labyrinth seemed designed to challenge the mind and body directly. Valira studied the chamber carefully. "The path is not obvious. You must observe, test, and adapt. Do not rush." Humans succeed because they think, experiment, and notice patterns others overlook. Kale nodded and began scanning the platforms. He noticed that some platforms responded to weight differently. Heavier steps caused slight shifts while lighter movements left them steady. Timing and precision would be essential. "This is a test of coordination," he whispered. "We need to move carefully, step by step, observing each reaction." Valira approved. "Good. Trust your instincts, but verify your observations. One false step could trap you, or worse, trigger defensive measures within the labyrinth." They began crossing the first platform. Kale led, moving slowly, testing each step. The platform swayed slightly but held. He noticed patterns in the shifting shadows and the faint vibrations through the floor. Each observation allowed him to predict the next movement. As they advanced, the labyrinth grew more complex. Platforms rotated, floated higher or lower, and shifted in unexpected sequences. Kyle's mind worked rapidly, calculating distances, weight distribution, and timing. He realized that the labyrinth reacted to their focus and anticipation, almost as if the monolith were aware of their thoughts. Suddenly, a glowing glyph flickered. The platform beneath Valira trembled. Kale's instincts kicked in. He reached out, stabilizing her with a quick adjustment of his weight. She looked at him with a raised brow, impressed. "You see, Kale," she said softly. "Humans excel because they combine observation with action. You notice details and you act decisively. That combination is rare among the stars." Kale felt a surge of confidence but remained focused. The labyrinth was far from complete, and every misstep could be costly. He guided Valira across a series of moving platforms, carefully observing patterns and adjusting their path. Halfway through the chamber, they encountered a new challenge, a set of platforms that hovered over a deep, glowing pit. The energy beneath was intense, almost hypnotic, and the platforms shifted in unpredictable rhythms. Kale studied the movements carefully. "Step lightly and time your moves," he whispered. "The pattern repeats, but we must anticipate the rhythm." Valira followed his lead, moving with precision and grace. Kyle counted the pulses, predicting the next shift, and they advanced slowly but steadily. Each successful step reinforced his confidence. Humans thrived in situations where observation and adaptation were required, and this labyrinth tested exactly those traits. As they reached the other side, Kale noticed a faint trail of energy leading to a narrow passage. It pulsed with a soft light, almost beckoning them forward. He sensed the next trial awaited there. The corridor led them deeper into the labyrinth, where the walls began to twist and shift. The symbols became more complex, intertwining in patterns that seemed impossible to follow. Kale realized that the labyrinth was now testing his focus, memory, and problem-solving skills simultaneously. "Watch closely," Valira said. "The labyrinth responds to hesitation and doubt. Confidence and clarity of thought will guide you. Humans are exceptional in this. They anticipate, adapt, and persevere." Kyle concentrated, tracing the glyphs with his eyes. He began to recognize sequences, understanding how one symbol's glow influenced another. Slowly, he identified the correct path. Every step required careful observation and a steady mind, but he led them forward without error. Suddenly, the passage opened into a vast chamber. At its center floated a glowing orb, suspended in midair. Its light filled the room, pulsating in rhythm with the monolith's energy. Kale felt the energy wash over him, warm and alive, as if the orb were observing them. "This is the core of the labyrinth," Valira said. "It tests more than strength or skill. It tests courage, insight, and the willingness to face the unknown. Approach carefully, human." Kyle stepped forward, his heart racing but his mind focused. He noticed the orb's energy responded to his movements, subtly shifting with each step. He realized the orb was not dangerous. It was a mirror reflecting his courage, patience, and understanding. He studied the orb, watching patterns of light that seemed to form sequences, almost like a language. Valira observed silently, letting him explore. Kale realized that to succeed, he needed to combine logic, observation, and intuition. Hours passed as Kale deciphered the orb's patterns. He noticed repetitions, shifts, and pulses that aligned with movements they had made through the labyrinth. Slowly, he traced the sequences predicting the orb's next response. With careful timing, he activated the final pattern. The chamber responded immediately. The orb pulsed brightly, then settled into a steady glow. The labyrinth's shifting walls calmed and the platform stabilized. Kyle had succeeded in the hidden labyrinth. Valera's eyes shone with pride. "Well done, Kale. You have proven that humans are remarkable. You combine intellect, courage, and adaptability in ways many aliens cannot. Your spirit and mind allow you to overcome trials that seem impossible." Kyle felt a quiet pride. The labyrinth had tested him physically, mentally, and emotionally. He had observed, adapted, and succeeded, relying on human ingenuity and persistence. But he also knew the artifact held deeper secrets yet. Valera placed a hand on his shoulder. "Rest now. The final trials await. They will test more than your skills. They will test the essence of who you are as a human. And I have no doubt you will rise to the challenge." Kale nodded, breathing deeply. He had faced the labyrinth and survived. He had proven that humans could excel through observation, patience, and courage. But he also knew that the journey was far from over. As they prepared to leave the chamber, Kale looked back at the glowing orb. Its light reflected in his eyes, a reminder that knowledge, insight, and human determination could unlock mysteries even the most advanced alien civilizations might never comprehend. With Valera by his side, Kale stepped forward, ready to face the final trials of the monolith. He was no longer just a human guard. He was a representative of humanity's ingenuity, courage, and resilience. And in the heart of the alien artifact, he knew that humans could achieve greatness, even in a universe full of wonders and dangers. The twin moons rose high in the sky, casting a soft silver glow across the plateau. Kyle stood beside Commander Valera, his eyes fixed on the monolith. After surviving the labyrinth, he felt a mixture of confidence and anticipation. He had learned to observe, adapt, and act with patience and courage. But the final trial of the artifact awaited, promising challenges that would test him to his limits. Valera turned to him. "Kyle, the final trial begins now. The artifact has responded to your mind, your courage, and your patience. Now it will test the essence of who you are. Are you ready?" Kyle took a deep breath. "I am ready, Commander." The monolith pulsed, with light, and a hidden entrance slowly opened at its base. Inside, the air shimmered with energy, and a low hum filled the chamber. Kale could feel the artifact's presence, intelligent, ancient, and powerful. The walls were lined with glowing glyphs twisting and moving as if alive. "This is the heart of the artifact," Valera said softly. "Few have entered. Even fewer have emerged unchanged. Observe carefully, act decisively, and trust your instincts." Kale stepped inside. The chamber expanded into a vast space, filled with floating platforms, shifting energy fields, and strange luminous symbols that hovered in midair. It was more complex than the labyrinth, more alive than the inner chamber. Every movement they made caused subtle shifts in the energy, as if the artifact were responding to their thoughts. Valera led the way, her movements graceful and precise. Kale followed closely, noting every detail. He had learned that success depended not only on courage and intelligence, but on careful observation and adaptation. Suddenly, the symbols in the chamber rearranged themselves, forming a complex sequence that glowed brighter with every step they took. Kale realized the artifact was presenting a puzzle, a challenge that required focus, logic, and insight. "Watch carefully," Valera said. "The sequence is not random. It responds to thought and action. Humans often succeed because they combine intuition with reasoning. Trust your instincts." Kyle studied the symbols. Each one responded to his gaze, shifting and rotating in a pattern. He traced the sequence in his mind, anticipating the next movement. Slowly, he identified the correct order. As he stepped forward, the symbols pulsed and a path of floating platforms appeared, leading deeper into the chamber. Kyle followed, carefully timing each step. The platforms shifted slightly with his Wait, but he adjusted, moving with precision and focus. Halfway across, the chamber trembled. Energy arcs shot from the walls, forming barriers that threatened to block their path. Kale's heart raced, but he remembered Valira's guidance: patience, observation, and courage. He analyzed the patterns of the energy arcs, noticing subtle pauses between each surge. Timing his movements perfectly, he led them through the barriers without harm. Valira's eyes glimmered with approval. Excellent, Kale. Humans excel because they combine thought with action. You do not rely solely on strength or reflex. You adapt and persevere. As they reached the center of the chamber, a massive energy sphere hovered before them. Its light was blinding, yet mesmerizing. Kyle felt a connection with it, as if it were aware of his presence, testing his mind and spirit. "This is the core," Valira said. "To succeed, you must not only observe and act, you must understand, adapt, and face the unknown without hesitation." Kale approached the core carefully. He noticed that his thoughts influenced the energy. When he focused on patience and clarity, the light pulsed calmly. When he felt fear or doubt, it flickered wildly. He realized that the artifact responded to his inner state, testing his composure as much as his intellect. He closed his eyes for a moment, centering himself. Slowly, he extended his hands toward the sphere. The energy rippled in response, forming a sequence of symbols and pathways that mirrored his movements. Kale's mind raced, analyzing patterns and anticipating outcomes. Hours seemed to pass as he worked with the core. He adjusted his actions with careful precision, matching the energies, rhythm, and logic. The artifact tested him continuously, presenting new challenges in rapid succession. Some required quick thinking, others demanded patience and restraint. But Kale adapted to each, combining insight, observation, and courage to succeed. Valira watched silently, offering occasional guidance with subtle gestures, allowing Kale to take the lead. She understood that this trial was not just about physical skill or strength, it was about human ingenuity, persistence, and the ability to rise above challenges through intellect and courage. Finally, the core responded fully. The energy stabilized, glowing steadily and brightly. Symbols aligned perfectly, forming a harmonious pattern. Kale stepped back, breathing heavily, but filled with quiet triumph. He had completed the final trial. Valira's voice echoed in the chamber. "Well done. Kale, you have proven that humans are exceptional. Your mind, courage, and adaptability have allowed you to overcome trials that many species would fail. You have demonstrated the essence of humanity: resilience, intelligence, and the ability to persevere against the impossible." Kyle felt a surge of pride, but he remained humble. The artifact had tested more than his skills. It had tested his patience, judgment, and understanding. And through it all, he had relied on human traits that set him apart: observation, creativity, courage, and adaptability. The chamber began to change. The energy of the core flowed outward, stabilizing the monolith and the surrounding plateau. The creatures and obstacles that had challenged them disappeared, leaving a serene, glowing space. Kyle realized that their success had unlocked the artifact's potential, at least partially. Valira approached him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You have succeeded where many would fail. The monolith is ancient and powerful, yet it recognizes your qualities. Humans possess a unique combination of traits that allow them to thrive in ways others cannot. Remember this, Kale. It is not just your strength or skill that sets you apart. It is your mind, your courage, and your spirit." Kyle nodded, feeling the truth of her words. Humans had survived against impossible odds for centuries. They had explored worlds, adapted to countless challenges, and overcome threats that seemed insurmountable. And here, in the heart of an alien artifact, he had proven that same resilience and ingenuity. Outside, the twin moons reflected off the monolith's smooth surface, casting a soft glow across the plateau. Kyle felt a sense of completion, but also anticipation. The universe was vast, full of wonders, dangers, and mysteries waiting to be discovered. And humans, he realized, had a place among the stars, capable of facing challenges that no one else could. Valeera turned to him one last time. You have earned your place here, Kyle, not through strength alone, but through your mind, your patience, and your courage. The monolith has tested you, and you have risen to every challenge. Take this lesson with you. Humans are remarkable because they can adapt, persevere, and succeed against impossible odds. Kale smiled, a quiet confidence settling in his chest. He had faced alien creatures, shifting labyrinths, and the intelligence of an artifact far beyond his understanding. And through it all, he had relied on human qualities: observation, ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. The monolith pulsed one final time as if acknowledging their success. Kale and Valeera stepped back, taking in the serene, glowing plateau. The trials were over, but their journey, and the lessons of the artifact, would remain with him forever. Kale looked up at the sky, at the twin moons and distant stars. He felt a sense of purpose and pride. Humans had always been survivors, thinkers, and innovators. And here, in a universe filled with wonders and dangers, he had proven that even in the face of the unknown, humans could rise above, adapt, and succeed. Valeera placed a hand on his shoulder one last time. You have done well, Kale. The universe is vast and full of challenges, but you are ready. Humans have a unique spark, and you have shown it brilliantly. Kyle nodded. He understood now that this was more than a personal victory. It was a testament to humanity's resilience, courage, and ingenuity. In the heart of the alien artifact, on a distant planet bathed in the light of twin moons, Kyle realized something extraordinary. Humans were remarkable, capable of achievements that even advanced alien civilizations might never predict. And with that, Kale and Valeera left the monolith, stepping back onto the plateau. The stars above twinkled like distant promises, and Kale felt the quiet thrill of possibilities yet to come. Humans had survived, adapted, and prevailed before. And now, among the stars, they would continue to do so, undaunted, brilliant, and endlessly remarkable. The adventure had ended, but the journey of human ingenuity and courage had only just begun.